going on, Dallas Cowboys fans, Cowboy Nation everywhere? This is iTalk Game 247. And before we get rolling, I want to go ahead and let you guys know I appreciate you. We have now hit the first 1,000 subscribers. The only way to go is up. We will keep getting better, keep improving. I want you guys to interact. I want to keep this thing, like I said, just channel growing overall, because there's going to be so much to always talk about when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys, especially. I appreciate you guys definitely. Also, before we get rolling, I want you guys to go ahead and hit that like button, because again, that is going to boost the algorithm. Going to continue to get this content out to other like-minded people such as yourself. I appreciate the support, and let's get rolling. Last night, with the first overall pick for the Dallas Cowboys, I'm going to say the first pick, not the first overall pick in general, but the first pick for the Dallas Cowboys in the first round, it was originally sitting there at the 24th overall pick, and we were kind of talking about here and there. You heard the rumors. Of course, the Cowboys would not have an issue with trading back because they did not make many moves in the offseason. We're talking about free agency, trade market, or anything like that. So the draft is going to be one of those places where the Cowboys are going to look to bolster up this rotation in this lineup in general, the roster going forward. So obviously, the Dallas Cowboys, if they found the perfect opportunity, they were going to move back maybe and pick up an extra couple picks if they could. And yesterday, the Dallas Cowboys did trade back from the 24th pick to the 29th pick and end up bringing in an earlier third-round pick today. So that's going to pay major dividends, because this is a deep draft, especially when it comes to the skill positions. I'm talking about there are still running backs, linebackers, especially my thing, receivers. There are many receivers on this board that did not fall off the board yesterday, and the Dallas Cowboys are going to have their easy pickings at pretty much anything that they choose early on in this third round, especially because we're going to look at the second round right now. Obviously, when you're going to ask yourself, do you want to see the Cowboys grab maybe another running back to add to this rotation? Because we do know as of right now, it's Royce Freeman. We're looking at Rico Dowdle coming back, and Deuce Vaughn, a guy that's going to be more so maybe a gadget player, find his plays maybe here and there, some screen game, we'll see. But just due to his size, and I feel like maybe he could find a niche, and last year that did not come true, because again, it's talking about with the offensive line, it's uncertainty of that, and figuring out what was going to be going on with the line of the future. Deuce Vaughn just couldn't find his role on this team, so the Cowboys are going to have to add something in the running back from the running back position, in my personal opinion. I don't think you can leave day two without getting a premier guy that you feel like at least can come in there and be that lead back, because that's what the Cowboys are lacking right now. We can always talk about running back by committee, things like that. I'm not the biggest fan of that, because at the end of the day, you need that battering ram. You need a guy that's going to come in there and be able to finish out games. And if you're kind of just, I guess you want to say, have a mixed bag of just a bunch of okay guys, at some point you're not going to be able to eat and feast off of the running game. And we don't want to see Dak Prescott have to be a passing quarterback. We've seen him have some success in this league being a passing quarterback, obviously, but I'm saying you don't want to have it as if we're only throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game, because we don't have any resemblance of a run game. So this is going to be very big for the Cowboys in day two. But going back to round one, the Dallas Cowboys traded back from the 24th pick to the 29th pick, like I said, bringing in an extra third-round pick from the Detroit Lions, and they took offensive tackle Tyler Guyton from the University of Oklahoma. This is a guy, we're talking about 6'7", 6'8", 320 pounds. I believe he starts his career about 2021 at TCU, ends up transferring to Oklahoma, and I believe in his last 14 games, I said starting with Oklahoma, the last 14 games, I believe it's about 350 plus snaps, something like that. He's given up 0 sacks. We're talking about 2 games, I believe in his last 27 games, what he's looking at in general overall in his entirety of his college career. I believe he gave up about 2 sacks. So this is a guy that Cowboys are going to be able to grow with, but I want people to know this from day one. This is going to be more of a project. I'm not saying project as if he's not going to be on the field on day one, or from week one. That's the belief. Obviously, your first round pick, you take a guy in the first round, an offensive lineman, you're obviously planning to move him in to a starting position. And we're looking at obviously no longer having Tyron Smith, long time All-Pro, long time is going to be future Hall of Famer. And hopefully one day he comes back and does it as a Dallas Cowboy. But this is a guy, it was time to move on, because there's just always some uncertainty where it came to Tyron Smith's body. How many games are you going to have him? Is he going to be healthy for the postseason? He's not really practicing during the week. So the Cowboys at some point, we're just going to look up and say, it's time to figure out what we're going to do just going in a different position, a different direction, but a younger guy bringing him in. I believe he's about 21, 22 years old right now. So Tyler Guyton, he's still fairly young. So again, there's lots to learn. Obviously, the NFL is a much different game than the college game. And if you're going back to looking at his college tape, the number one thing, especially me being a Texas Longhorns fan, I see lots of the Oklahoma Sooners, formerly in the Big 12, now both teams going to the SEC. I'm gonna say you've seen Tyler Guyton, and one thing you've heard a lot of people asking questions about since the last few hours since the draft pick was actually made. He plays lots of right tackle, but if you're watching the film, a lot of that was out of necessity because Dylan Gabriel, the quarterback at Oklahoma, that was a left-handed quarterback. So he's essentially playing the blind side of that quarterback. Most quarterbacks are going to say, obviously, look out through the entire league. Of course, you have a couple guys here and there, but predominantly, you're usually going to see these right-handed quarterbacks. So that blind side is going to move over to the left tackle. What this allowed the Dallas Cowboys to do is not have to move a guy like Tyler Smith, who became an all-pro last year at the left guard position, playing next to Tyron Smith. We're now gonna say, we have a solidified all-pro type player at the left guard position. And now, if you're able to just help develop this guy and bring him along in the right way, I'm gonna say also, if you're looking for him to just be all-pro level from week 1, slow down, please, because obviously he's going to have to learn. And we're talking about a guy that's 6'7", 6'8", like I said, 320 pounds. The biggest thing you hear about him is his feet. He's very athletic. He's very agile for his size. But sometimes being that tall, and we know these old linemen especially are usually bigger guys anyway, but he's talking about a guy 6'7", 6'8", 320 pounds. The issue that a Tyler Guyton does have from time to time is just staying low and not lunging at pass rushers. And we know in the NFL, you sneak and you try to lean in and overly grab somebody, the end of the play, that's the end of a play. Look at a guy like a Micah Parsons. He's going to pay major dividends. What the Cowboys did pick up that 5th-year option on a guy like Micah Parsons. I believe he's making, $21 million this year. Hopefully we're able to get a deal done with him. But what's going to pay major dividends is these offseason workouts, when training camp wraps up, all those things. You're going to be able to see a Tyler Guyton have to face a guy like a DeMarcus Lawrence, have to face a guy like a Micah Parsons. You know they're going to put pressure on him, and that's going to do nothing but help him get much better, because you're going to see one of the most premier players, not even just defensive players, one of the premier players in the entire league in a Micah Parsons every single week. So every single day pretty much at practice, I'm saying. So Tyler Guyton, that's going to do nothing but help him improve. We're talking about just getting low, staying bent, keeping his knees bent, because sometimes like I said, his biggest issue is he gets too high sometimes. And that can get you in trouble, especially in NFL. One thing I will say also, he is a mauling type. He has that capability to be a mauling type. But when you're watching him play, the number one thing you want these coaches, especially the offensive line coaches for the Cowboys going forward, you want them to kind of instill some of that ferociousness in him. He has it here and there. You see on some plays where he can completely just take a guy out of a play. But sometimes it seems as if he kind of just relies on that size. And I don't think it's going to be anything that's going to be an issue going forward long term, because again, we're talking about you're facing a different caliber of players. You're going to be around a lot of veterans, around a lot of coaches that are not going to bite their tongues when it comes to helping you develop or trying to help you develop. So Tyler Guyton, this is a guy I'm going to say going forward in year 1, look for him to get much better by the end of the season. And hopefully it's nothing that's going to be so major to the point that it slows down any progress that the team and the offense in general is making. But I feel like this is a great starting point for what we needed. We were not able to get a Graham Barton, and Jackson Powers Johnson, the center of the University of Oregon, I believe is still on the board right now. But if you're going to look up and say, what did the Cowboys do on day 1 of the NFL draft, and did they fill any holes and any needs? I feel like they strongly did. This to me right now, I'm going to give it at least a B+. I don't think I can go lower than a B+. And I'm saying B+ just because it wasn't like we're talking about we picked in the top 5, top 10, where you're taking that offensive tackle or whatever, and he's just like a surefire, can't miss guy. This is a guy, Tyler Guyton. He's still going to have some work to do. He's going to have to develop a little bit. But if he's able to do that, and I believe he is, because again, I feel like he definitely has the capability. We're talking about a guy from Manor, Texas. He grew up a Cowboys fan, so that's already one of those things. We know you've seen the Dez Bryants. These guys that grew up Cowboys fans, they have a little bit more passion, a little bit more fire when it comes to improving for their hometown team or just their childhood team. And I feel like Tyler Guyton is a great pick at 29th overall in the first round. That was about the range that he should have gone, I believe. And if you're looking for a guy, again, to maybe be a building block going forward, right next to all-pro left guard Tyler Smith, then you're going to be, this is the perfect position. Like I said, I don't see how much you can complain too much off of a guy later on in the first round that's going to be able to fill a need and still be able to give you some flexibility when it comes to that offensive line. Going into day 2, obviously with the Dallas Cowboys, like I said, now of the draft, we have the 2nd, and now we have 2 third-round picks again, which are going to pay major dividends for the Cowboys, just looking to continue to grow this roster and improve this roster. You're going to have guys that are returning from injury last year, which are going to pay major dividends as well. I'm talking about a DeMarvion Overshown from last year. Again, a Texas Longhorn alumni. This is a guy that has lots of flash freak play ability. And you saw a lot of times earlier, especially more so in the preseason, but we're talking about in training camp, DeMarvion Overshown was all over the field. The coaching staff was loving him. And unfortunately, he was not able to contribute last year due to an ACL injury. So getting him back this year, healthy, strong, and just having more of a mental aspect of what the game is. Because you can come in year one, you have all the physicality, all the ability actually on the field, but it's still a mental process. You're going to have to actually learn the playbook. You're going to have to figure out how fast does this game actually go? Am I able to make plays and gaps? Because you do have to be a little bit more disciplined in the NFL, because now you're not talking about some of these offensive linemen and other offensive on the other side of the ball that you're going against. Some of these guys are not making it to the league. You get to the league, the NFL we're talking about, you're playing against a lot of veterans. Guys might be 30, 35 plus. Talking about they know every trick of in the book, so you're gonna have to work on your game. So getting a DeMarvion Overshown is gonna be getting him back, is gonna be big going forward. And so, but this year I'm gonna say in day 2, there are so many guys I talked about last night. I said the last couple days actually. We're talking from the running back position, whether it's a Jonathan Brooks, a guy from the University of Texas as well, believed to probably have the best ability as the starting running back in this draft class, if not due to that ACL injury he also suffered not too long ago. And then you're looking at a Trey Benson out of Florida State. A couple guys I'm just big fans of, a Jalen Wright out of the University of Tennessee. Then when we're looking at some of these other guys, you're looking at a Marshawn Lloyd, a Ray Davis, a guy, a Braden Allen. I'm talking about. I think these are some guys that you're not going to be able to have to say, well, there's no one left on the board. There are many options that the Cowboys can kind of poke at, and I feel like there's not going to be a shortage of anything at the running back position. We'll see, but I feel like we definitely have to grab a running back in day 2. So whether it's in that second round, whether it's one of those third round picks, I'm going to say if anything, if you would wait until the third round, I'm going to hope that the Cowboys use that first pick. I mean, I believe we're looking at now the 56th pick we have, and now 73rd from the Detroit Lions that we got yesterday, and then having an 87th overall pick later on in that third round draft a little bit later. So we're going to have lots of things we can touch on. But like I said, also let's going back into also receiver. I still am not out on receiver. I think you have got to continue to improve our wide receiver group, because again, looking at Brandon Cook going to the last year of his deal, you're looking at Jalen Tolbert. We don't have him where we need to have him yet. He hasn't shown that he is going to be that opposite guy of a CeeDee Lamb if we're able to get the CeeDee Lamb deal done, obviously. And also in the same wake of the CeeDee Lamb issue, the contract issue, what we're going to have to do is, as a Cowboys, I'm saying as the Cowboys front office, I believe, you have to cover all bases. So that means getting a guy that if you need to see a CeeDee Lamb not out there for a couple games or here and there, or figure out this contract situation, you're going to need a guy that can come in there and make plays. Although he's going to be a rookie, so it's still going to be a learning curve, there's still some guys on the board that can make some plays. You saw Brian Thomas Jr., you saw obviously Rome Odunze, you saw those guys fall off the board. You saw Marvin Harrison Jr. obviously goes to the Arizona Cardinals, I believe the 4th overall pick. Malik Neighbors, I believe he goes to the Giants. But what you're going to say, you look at an A.D. Mitchell, an Adonai Mitchell, there are still some guys. Jalen McMillan, Jalen Polk, both of these Washington receivers also playing with a guy like Rome Odunze. They made their own name in their own right. Michael Penix Jr. had many weapons to work with, and the Cowboys can bring one of those guys in. Also, another guy I'm a big fan of right now, and again, it's kind of going under I guess you want to say under the radar a little bit. It's Keon Coleman, obviously from Florida State, but this guy, Brendan Rice, the son of a former, we can say all-pro, the greatest of all time, the greatest receiver of all time, former San Francisco 49er. We're looking at Jerry Rice, his son Brendan Rice from USC. This is a guy that has a game that I feel like is going to translate very well to the NFL. It's not always about being able to run a 4.4, 4.3. This is going to be a guy I think is going to be a very good NFL wide receiver. And if the Cowboys can kind of fall into him, whether it's maybe that later third round, and I don't want to say fall into the 4th, but there are some guys, like I said, there are just many playmakers in this second day. And if the Cowboys are able to grab one, we're going to be in good positioning. I'm also not against the Cowboys bringing in maybe a center project because at the same time, we did not cover that base yet. I know some people they're not really sure on Brock Hoffman. You want to see if they're going to figure out what's going on with the development of him. And some people still want to kind of pick up a center. Jackson Powers Johnson, as we spoke about from the University of Oregon, is still available, but I don't see him lasting too long. Maybe the Cowboys do grab him with that first pick of the second round. We'll see if they try to move up or whatever the situation may be. But there are many ways to approach this thing. The linebackers today, you have Cedric Gray, you have a guy from North Carolina, you have a couple guys. You have Cooper, I believe, from is it A&M, I believe. I'm saying there are some guys still on the board that the Cowboys can come in there. You have some guys, the Colson, the linebacker from the University of Michigan, I believe leading the University of Michigan in tackles the last couple seasons. So there are some guys that can come in here and help. Mike Zimmer is going to want to pick up a couple of these pieces and weapons going forward for his own side of the ball, I'm sure, going forward. So we'll see exactly what the Cowboys choose to do. It's going to be very exciting in a day 2 event. So I appreciate you guys. I think the NFL draft day 2, it will be at about 6 p.m. I believe Central Time today. And like I said, the Cowboys have 3 picks going into this day. So I guess we're not void of anything that's going to be entertaining for the Cowboys. So keep your heads tuned in, keep your eyes locked in, and again, keep passing around this information, these content, these videos, because again, I want to continue to grow the show, but also get people, again, like-minded Cowboys fans such as yourself to kind of give me their opinions. Let me know what you guys think in general. So I appreciate you guys. Day 2 will be very exciting. As always, go Cowboys, but also enjoy the rest of your day.